The Chosen One is a trope, often in fantasy fiction, that I personally don't know what to make of. I mean, on one end, I think a Chosen One can be done extremely well to the point that you forget that they are a Chosen One in the first place. And on the other end, I think that a lot of the times, when you know they're a Chosen One, it kind of just makes the story bland and predictable. One example that comes to mind of a good Chosen One story is the Lightning Thief series by Rick Riordan, wherein Percy Jackson serves as the Chosen One. Hey, editor, stop using the movie, alright? That movie sucks. Use, like, pictures of the visual novel or something, or like fan art. Yeah, there we go. Anyways, Percy Jackson is a Chosen One, and if I asked any of you in the audience to think of a Chosen One character, you would likely have at least 2 or 3 answers. Ironically enough, the Chosen One is more of a chosen many when it comes to fiction. The one person in every fantasy world or story who is just born better and serves to be the only hope against a profane Dark Lord. It's a story structure that sells fantastically as well. From Lord of the Rings to Harry Potter to Star Wars and Game of Thrones, they're all centered around a Chosen One or some kind of prophecy foretold in the bygone eras. And while I feel that these are all good examples of how to do a Chosen One story correctly, I also think that this is a very easy trope to get wrong, not to mention it can be pretty stale. And this brings me to why you might suck at writing Chosen Ones. The first reason you might suck at writing Chosen Ones actually has nothing to do with the Chosen One character themselves, and everything to do with who the Chosen One is meant to defeat, and what they are meant to accomplish as the Chosen One. For every Chosen One, there is also a Dark Lord, and for every Dark Lord, there is a prophecy for their undoing. The Voldemort to Harry Potter, Darth Vader to Luke, Sauron to Frodo, and so on. It is important to have an overarching villain who challenges the Chosen One, and not just challenge them, but make that Chosen One afraid. I think that's the key difference between well-written and poorly written Dark Lords. In stories where the Chosen One has every advantage and the Dark Lord can pretty much destroy everyone with ease only to get absolutely bodied the moment the Chosen One even breathes on them, it's just boring. No, a good Chosen One story makes you forget that they are the Chosen One. And one of the best ways to make the audience forget that they are the Chosen One is to inspire fear within the Chosen One. Uncertainty and doubt are the best tools when writing chosen characters because it builds tension, which is often lacking in poorly written Chosen One stories. If our main hero does not fear nor struggle against the Dark Lord they are destined to defeat, then that destiny becomes all the more obvious to the audience. Maintaining a threatening presence for your Dark Lord is paramount if you want to write a compelling story. There is a reason an entire prophecy was made just to foretell the end of the Dark Lord. After all, Dark Lords are Chosen Ones in their own right, and so should be treated as the unstoppable force of your Chosen One's story. Constantly sending goons to our hero, or even dropping in themselves from time to time. The Chosen One only really needs to defeat the Dark Lord once, but who is to say that the Chosen One wins every encounter they have with the Dark Lord, or that our main character is even a Chosen One in the first place. After all, when the audience is uncertain of who the real Chosen One is, then it's easier to get invested in the story of our main character. This is why I have sort of a conundrum with Chosen One stories. In order to write a good one, you need to make sure that people don't think it's a Chosen One story. You have to pretend that it's not a Chosen One story for the Chosen One story to actually be good. The Dark Lord is just another tool for you as the writer to make an audience forget how chosen your main character actually is. The Dark Lord should always be formidable, and they should always make the Chosen One struggle. They should stand over the heroes of the story with a maleficent presence that shows the audience why they are so feared in the world. Now, you may be wondering, why am I talking about how to write a Dark Lord before I talk about how to write a Chosen One? After all, this video is not called Why You Suck at Writing Dark Lords, although that might actually be a good idea to go into. No, the reason I'm giving you this advice first and foremost is because I want you to be in the right mindset when writing a Chosen One character. Your stories should not be about the Chosen One, or at least not entirely. The Chosen One is the most important character to the other characters in the story, but to the reader, they will probably be just as important, if not less so, than any other character in the story. Another shortcoming I have seen in Chosen One stories is that they become Gary Stews and Mary Sues. More often than not, though, let's be honest, Chosen Ones are predominantly male, and quite often they become Gary Stews in their stories. When I think of a poorly written Chosen One character, I think of Bell from Danmachi, Kirito from SAO, or any character either Vin Diesel, Steven Seagal, or The Rock have ever portrayed. These characters never seem to take any meaningful damage in their fights. Even when they are wrong, they are right, and for some godforsaken reason, everybody wants their dick, no matter how insufferable or lame they really are. The Chosen One has the added benefit of fate on their side, and if you, as the writer, do not take steps to ensure that fate is as twisted and gnarled as possible, then fate itself becomes the Chosen One's true power. Everything that was or will be is set in stone and cannot be changed, and because we know that as the audience, it is once again boring. The standard implication of a Chosen One also implies that no matter how much someone else who is not chosen might train or struggle, they cannot defeat the great Dark Lord. It sends the message that only someone who is born better can accomplish things, and that's not good. A Chosen One should not feel as if they are entitled to their destiny. A Chosen One should struggle and fail just as much as, if not more so, than other characters in the story. It's also important to remember that failure for the Chosen One is not the end, and rather a stepping stone for the true ending when they do inevitably succeed. It is your job as a writer to make the audience forget that the hero is going to win in the end, and it will always be your job as a writer to do that. This brings me to my next point, which is to say that the Chosen One should not be a mouthpiece for you and what you believe. Many writers, knowing that their Chosen One is always right and has the backing of God and anime on their side, will also occasionally use that character as a method for conveying and impressing their personal ideals on the audience through the Chosen One's mouth. Because Chosen Ones are apparently infallible and cannot have bad opinions, or something. If you want to stop making poorly written Chosen One characters, then you should allow your Chosen One character to have beliefs, flaws, and opinions that are outside of your own. The next reason you might suck at writing Chosen One characters is actually pretty simple. You're not taking time to understand the trope. And what do I mean by that? Well, whenever you write something, it's important to do your proper research. If there is a trope in fiction that you enjoy, it's also important to understand why you enjoy it. You should also understand how common that trope is and why it is the way it is. You should think about what you might be able to do in order to subvert that trope. Now, not all tropes are bad, and not all tropes need to be subverted, but what's important for you as a writer to understand is that tropes are only helpful when you know how and why they exist. You need to know the rules in order to bend or break them. It's as simple as that. For example, one subversion of the Chosen One trope could be that there is no Chosen One, but rather a chosen many. One Punch Man is an excellent example of this. Saitama is the Chosen One in some regards. After all, there is a prophecy foretelling of the disaster-level god. But later in the story, you begin to see that Saitama is not the only Chosen One. In fact, every single S-Class hero is a chosen one in their own way. They are main characters of their own stories and refuse to be anything else. There are sacred swords, forbidden techniques, minor prophecies, and inherited destinies in their ranks. And yet, when we read and watch their struggles, those struggles are still compelling because we, the audience, know that a true chosen one is non-existent. They are still compelling because we, the audience, can see that the only real chosen one is Saitama. Being a chosen one does not save any of them from dying or losing. A good chosen one also starts with a good prophecy, and what makes a good prophecy in a chosen one story? Any prophecy which makes the reader think twice about exactly what is being prophesized. I mean, a good prophecy, depending on the context, can spell either the end of days or the coming of a new age. After all, when someone says, "the end of life as we know it," that doesn't necessarily mean the end of life itself or that everyone will die. It simply means that the life we live now, the experiences we have, and the world we have come to know will no longer be the same once the prophecy is fulfilled. The end of life as we know it could also be a good thing. After all, if the life you know is that of an indentured servant or slave in medieval times, I think the end of life as you know it would mean something like freedom. What's also important to understand about the chosen one trope is what it says about time, fate, and the free will of your world. If destiny exists and cannot be guided or changed, then free will does not exist. If you have ever played a video game where every choice you make leads to the same ending, you tend to feel as if those choices never mattered in the first place, and that you had no free will to begin with. It's the same in your stories. Don't allow your story to feel like this. And if you do want your story to feel like this, then allow your chosen one to ponder these implications. A chosen character realizing that no matter what they do, they will destroy the Dark Lord and bring a new era could be a good subversion of the trope in and of itself. After all, if the chosen one is not a moral paragon, they could instill themselves as the new Dark Lord, or they could shirk their duties and do whatever they please with their title. If everyone in the world knows that this chosen one is the only hope for survival, then they have ample opportunity to abuse that power and importance. A morally corrupt chosen one is rather compelling because the story is no longer about how they will defeat evil, but rather who will one day defeat them. You could go another route with this type of realization too. Allow it to be the chosen one's darkest hour, one where they realize that their fate was never theirs to begin with. It was always someone else's. Have them realize that who they are was never as important as what they are. These might be difficult questions to ponder or sift through when writing, but it is doing the things that are difficult that will make you a better writer. The chosen one also doesn't need to solve every problem in the world. Perhaps they are good at defeating the Dark Lord, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are good at ruling a country or keeping peace or any other number of things that they might just suck at. This brings me to my final point about chosen ones. The characters you surround your chosen one with should be equally considered and fleshed out. Each of them should have a role to play that the chosen one cannot, whether it's mentoring the chosen ones, supporting them, or making up for the chosen one's shortcomings. These characters are more important than the chosen one in some cases because it is a lot easier for readers to care about these characters. After all, they don't have a prophecy constantly ensuring that they will make it out of every villainous exchange. In fact, these characters may be even more heroic than the chosen one themselves, and perhaps it's important for the chosen one to understand that in your story. The chosen one could recognize that they are lucky enough to have fate on their side, but nothing in the prophecy said that all of their friends are going to make it, so that's why the chosen one continues to try. Perhaps the chosen one is always destined to destroy the Dark Lord, but the cost of doing so is what fate has not predestined. There is a difference between an ending where the chosen one is the last one standing and an ending where the chosen one is the only one left standing. And this brings me to my final point about Chosen One stories and why you suck at writing them. Sometimes that final battle just kinda fucking sucks. It's boring and frankly doesn't even make the top 10 of the other fights in your story. And it's understandable. After all, the audience already knows who's gonna win and has always known since the very beginning of the story. And as we approach that final fight, the audience is always going to be reminded of that fact. But once again, you, as the writer, should, using these other tools, ensure that the reader forgets about that part. After all, even if the Dark Lord will be slain in the end, who is to say that our Chosen One survives, or that any of their friends survive? A good final fight in a Chosen One story is one which has already done all of the groundwork beforehand to establish that winning is not always a happy outcome. Even if you intend to write a happy ending, you must make the reader believe there is still a chance that the story will not end happily ever after. Make your reader worry about which character may or may not survive. Make them fear the Dark Lord just as much as everybody else does. And most importantly, make every lesson the Chosen One has learned along their journey count. But you will never write this final fight without first writing your beginning. So choose your own destiny in this moment and start writing.